I sat quietly in the luxurious boardroom of Morgan Industries, watching my father's performance. He was in rare form today, playing the role of the successful business consultant addressing one of the largest corporations in the country. "Innovation is critical," he declared, pacing in his expensive suit. "Which is why your current strategy." He paused to shoot me a disdainful look. "Much like some people's career choices, is completely useless." The board members shifted uncomfortably. My father had insisted on bringing me to this meeting, another attempt to show me how real business works, not knowing I had orchestrated this entire scenario. James, the CEO of Morgan Industries, caught my eye briefly before returning to his practiced neutral expression. Only he and a select few knew that Morgan Industries wasn't just another client. It was my company, built over 15 years while my family dismissed my insignificant consulting work. "Perhaps," James said carefully, "we should hear all perspectives before making decisions." My father waved dismissively. "My daughter can barely manage her tiny consulting firm. 2 employees, isn't it, Eleanor? Hardly qualified to advise a company of this magnitude." Technically, I had over 80,000 employees across my various enterprises. The tiny consulting firm was just a cover, a convenient explanation for my frequent travel and late-night calls. James, who had risen through the ranks under my quiet mentorship, was one of the few who knew the truth. My phone buzzed. Sarah Chin, my chief strategy officer, texting an update. "Acquisition papers ready. Should we proceed with the reveal?" I gazed at my father, still pontificating about business strategies he'd read in outdated management books. For 15 years, I'd listened to him dismiss my work, mock my independence and belittle my achievements. All while I built an empire that would soon absorb his precious consulting practice. "And that's why," he concluded smugly, "Morgan Industries needs experienced guidance. Not." Another contemptuous glance my way. "Amateur suggestions from someone who can't even maintain a proper office." James stood slowly, his expression shifting from polite attention to something entirely different. "Actually, sir, I believe it's time we heard from someone else." He turned to me, eyes gleaming. "Mother, shall we begin?" The silence that followed was absolute. My father froze mid-gesture, his face a study in confusion. "Mother." I finally spoke, my quiet voice carrying easily in the hushed room. "James, I think it's time we discussed the real purpose of this meeting." The boardroom erupted into barely controlled chaos. My father stumbled back against the mahogany wall, his perfectly constructed world crumbling around him. The board members, who had been politely tolerating his presentation, now sat up straight, their expressions shifting from bored indulgence to intense attention. "Mother?" he repeated, looking between James and me. "What is this nonsense?" "Not nonsense," James replied calmly. "Just truth. Eleanor Morgan founded this company 15 years ago. Every major decision, every acquisition, every strategy you just criticized, all came from her." I stood, smoothing my deliberately modest dress. "The Morgan in Morgan Industries isn't James's last name, father. It's mine. My married name before the divorce you called another failure." Sarah Chin chose that moment to enter, her timing perfect as always. "Ms. Morgan, the acquisition documents are ready. Shall we proceed with the Anderson merger announcement?" My father's face went from confused to ashen. "Anderson Consulting? My firm's biggest competitor." "Actually," I smiled slightly, "as of this morning, Anderson Consulting is a subsidiary of Morgan Industries, along with 12 other consulting firms including—" I paused, savoring the moment. "Yours." "Impossible," he whispered. "Your little 2-person operation was a cover," James finished. "While you were mocking Mother's tiny consulting firm, she was building the largest business consulting empire in the country. Those clients you've been so proud of winning? They came to you because we directed them there." Sarah distributed folders to the board members, who opened them with newfound reverence. "The complete organizational chart," she explained, showing how Eleanor Morgan controls not just Morgan Industries, but nearly 40% of the global consulting market. My father grabbed the nearest folder, his hands shaking as he read. I could see the moment he reached the page detailing his own firm's acquisition, a deal he'd celebrated last week, never knowing he'd essentially sold his company to his useless daughter. Those merger terms you were so proud of negotiating? I said softly. I wrote them. That generous purchase price? I said it. That clever exit strategy you bragged about at Sunday dinner? My team designed it. All this time. He managed, every time you asked for business advice. I was gathering intelligence, I confirmed. Learning exactly how you think, how you operate, what you value. Making it easier to acquire and dismantle firms like yours that prioritize ego over effectiveness. James moved to stand beside me, my son whom I'd raised to understand what real business leadership meant. Who had earned his CEO position through merit, not inheritance or connections. Who had kept our relationship private until this perfect moment of revelation. The board meeting will officially begin now, he announced. Our first order of business is restructuring the newly acquired consulting divisions. Starting with Anderson and Stevens Consulting. My father's head snapped up at his firm's name. Restructuring. Complete reorganization, I confirmed. Top to bottom evaluation of all personnel. Performance reviews, competency assessments, cultural fit analysis. No one's position is guaranteed, not even founding partners. The implications hit him like a physical blow. His firm, his career, his professional reputation, all now under the control of the daughter he'd dismissed as useless. You can't. He started. Can't what? I asked quietly. Can't run a successful business? Can't make strategic decisions? Can't determine the fate of other people's careers? I believe you've spent 15 years proving exactly how well I can do all of those things. Sarah, I said calmly, please show the performance metrics for Stevens Consulting over the past 5 years. The room's screens lit up with devastating clarity. Graphs, charts, and analyses showing exactly how my father's outdated methods had been slowly destroying his firm. Each downward trend, each lost opportunity, each failed initiative carefully documented by my team. As you can see, I continued, addressing the board while my father stared at the evidence of his professional decline, Stevens Consulting has been underperforming in key areas. Client retention down 40%. Innovation metrics below industry standard. Employee turnover at record highs. Those numbers are. My father started. Accurate, James cut in. Unlike the reports you've been showing your partners. Mother's team has had access to your real financials for months. The same financials you've been creatively adjusting. The blood drained from my father's face as he realized the full implications. Not just his firm's acquisition, but his own management practices were now exposed. The board meeting you attended last month? I added. Where you pitched your revolutionary consulting approach. I wrote the rejection letter. The client you lost to Anderson last week? My decision. The mysterious investor who's been buying your company's debt? One of my subsidiaries. My phone buzzed, a text from my mother. Eleanor, your father just called in a panic. What's happening at Morgan Industries? I showed the message to James, who smiled slightly. Should we invite grandmother to the next board meeting? She's been asking about my new job for months. Let's handle one family revelation at a time, I replied, then turned back to my father. Now about your position in the restructured organization. My position? He tried to summon his old authority. I built Stevens Consulting from nothing. 30 years of experience, connections throughout the industry. Connections that now belong to Morgan Industries, Sarah noted, pulling up another document. Along with your client list, your methodologies, though those need significant updating, and your partnership agreements. Which brings us to your options, I said, nodding to Sarah, who placed 2 folders in front of my father. One blue, one red. Just like the choices he'd never given me. The blue folder contains a retirement package. Generous, though not as generous as you'd planned. The red folder contains your new employment contract, a position in our Singapore office, heading up a small team focused on traditional consulting methods. Singapore, he sputtered. You expect me to move to Singapore? No, father. I expect you to finally understand what it means to earn your position rather than inherit it. Singapore is merely an option, one offering more dignity than your performance metrics actually warrant. James leaned forward. Consider it a learning opportunity, grandfather. Like those entry-level positions you were always suggesting mother should take. The boardroom had grown so quiet you could hear the hum of the air conditioning. The other board members watched with a mixture of fascination and discomfort as 3 generations of family dynamics unfolded before them. "Your mother," my father said suddenly. "Does she know about Morgan Industries? Oh. About the house she lives in, the car she drives, the country club she belongs to? Also no." I smiled slightly. Though she might want to review who actually owns those things before continuing to apologize for my limited success at social events. Sarah's tablet chimed with another update. "The Anderson merger announcement is going live in 5 minutes. Stevens Consulting stock is already responding to market rumors." 4 minutes and 30 seconds, I corrected, checking my watch. "Just about the time it took you to dismiss my first business plan, Father. The one you called a naive little girl's fantasy at my college graduation." The announcement hit like a tsunami. Within minutes, my father's phone began exploding with calls and texts, partners, clients, family, friends, all desperate to understand how Stevens Consulting had suddenly become part of the mysterious Morgan Industries empire. "You should probably answer those," I suggested mildly, watching as his phone lit up with increasingly frantic messages. "Your partners seem particularly concerned about their retirement plans." Sarah's tablet displayed real-time updates of Stevens Consulting's stock price, which was swinging wildly as the market processed the news. My father stared at the numbers, watching his life's work being revalued by investors who now knew who really controlled its future. "The retirement package," he said finally, reaching for the blue folder with trembling hands, "is no longer available," I finished. "That was a 10-minute offer. Like the 10 minutes you gave me to clear out my desk when I interned at your firm during college." The boardroom doors opened again and my mother burst in, still wearing her tennis club outfit. She froze at the tableau before her. My father slumped in his chair, James commanding the room from the CEO's position, and me, her supposedly struggling daughter, calmly orchestrating it all. "Eleanor," she whispered. "What's happening? The club is buzzing about some huge business merger, and your father's secretary just called me crying." "Sit down, Mother," I said, gesturing to an empty chair. "We were just discussing family business. The real family business, not the version you've been telling your friends about." James stood. "Hello, Grandmother. Welcome to Morgan Industries. My company. Or rather, Mother's company." My mother's perfectly manicured hand flew to her throat. "Your company? But Eleanor only has that small consulting." "That small consulting firm was a cover," Sarah explained, pulling up a new presentation on the screens. "While you were apologizing for her absence at charity galas, Ms. Morgan was building this." The screens filled with images of Morgan Industries' global reach. Office towers, manufacturing facilities, technology centers, and consulting firms across 6 continents. Each property, each acquisition, each success I'd achieved while they'd dismissed me as a failure. "The country club you just left?" I added. "Morgan Industries acquired it last year." "The luxury stores where you shop?" "Our retail division." "The investment firm managing your accounts?" "Another subsidiary." My mother sank into the chair, her tennis bracelet catching the light. All this time, I confirmed. "Every dinner where you pitted my modest lifestyle. Every holiday where you suggested better career paths. Every social event where you apologized for my choices. I was building an empire that would eventually consume everything your world revolves around." My father found his voice again. "The Singapore position is now a junior analyst role," I cut in. "Your delay in accepting the original offer has consequences. Just like you taught me, hesitation in business is weakness." "Junior analyst?" My mother's voice rose an octave. "But what will we tell everyone? The club members, our friends." "You'll tell them exactly what I've been telling them for years," I smiled. "That I run a small consulting firm. That I'm doing my best. That I'm still learning about business from my father. Though now they'll know which one of us is really doing the teaching." Sarah's tablet chimed again. "Ms. Morgan, the press is requesting interviews about the merger. They're particularly interested in the family connection." "Family connection?" My mother looked confused. "Yes," James replied. "About how the CEO of Morgan Industries acquired her own father's company. How she spent 15 years building a corporate empire while her family dismissed her as unsuccessful. It's quite a story. The kind of story that feeds headlines for weeks, I added. Every society column you love so much will be dissecting our family dynamic. Every business magazine will be analyzing how Stevens Consulting fell under its founder's daughter's control. Every country club conversation will be about how Eleanor Morgan outsmarted them all. My father reached for the red folder, the Singapore offer, but I pulled it back. That offer expired too. Now we'll be evaluating all Stevens Consulting personnel based purely on merit. Starting from the bottom. The bottom, he echoed weakly. Entry level, I confirmed. Like you always said I should. Though not in Singapore. I have a position open in our Oslo office. Much smaller operation. Perfect for learning fundamentals. Oslo. My mother looked faint. But what about our summer plans? The club events? The charity board meetings? I'm sure they'll understand, I said. After all, they've been very understanding about my absences over the years. Though they might be surprised to learn who's been anonymously funding their endowments. James checked his watch. The all-hands meeting starts in 10 minutes. The entire Stevens Consulting staff will be attending virtually to learn about their new parent company. And their new reporting structure, Sarah added, pulling up an organizational chart that showed my father's name near the bottom, under Junior Operations Oslo Division. This is revenge, my father said quietly. No, I corrected. This is business. Revenge would be dismantling your firm piece by piece, firing your loyal employees, destroying your professional legacy. Instead, I'm offering you what you never offered me, a chance to earn respect based on actual performance. My mother dabbed at her eyes with an embroidered handkerchief. But why? Why all the deception? Because you gave me no choice, I replied. Every time I tried to show you my real success, you dismissed it. Every time I achieved something significant, you minimized it. So I stopped showing you. I stopped seeking your approval. I built something so massive that when you finally saw it, there would be no way to diminish it. The boardroom fell silent as my words sank in. 15 years of dismissal, of condescension, of carefully maintained appearances, all shattered in a single morning. The all-hands meeting, James announced, standing. Shall we, Mother? I nodded, gathering my things. Father, you'll find your new employee orientation materials at the reception desk. Your flight to Oslo leaves tomorrow morning. I paused at the door. Oh, and Mother? The country club board meets next week to review memberships. As the new owner, I'll be attending. We can discuss your tennis lessons then. As we walked out, leaving my shell-shocked parents behind, Sarah leaned in. Was it everything you hoped for? I looked back at the boardroom where my father had just learned his true place in the business world, where my mother was realizing her social standing now depended on her daughter's discretion, where 15 years of family dynamics had been turned upside down in a single meeting. Almost, I smiled. But wait until they see what I have planned for the holiday party. James laughed. Grandmother's face when she realizes her favorite charity gala venue is now booking through Morgan Industries exclusively, I finished. Sometimes the sweetest success isn't in the grand revelations, but in the small, daily reminders of who really controls their world now. The empire I'd built while they weren't watching would now be impossible to ignore. Every charity event, every business deal, every social gathering would remind them of how thoroughly they'd underestimated me. And perhaps finally, they would understand that success isn't measured by their narrow definitions, but by the quiet power of proving them wrong.